Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. I am Laura Lalaki, international real estate agent, and your host for today. And in this episode, we're discussing a heartbreaking and shocking incident involving Sonya Massey, who tragically died at the hands of an Illinois police officer. According to the reports, Massey called the police in Springfield, reporting that an intruder may have been around her home. While two deputies responded to the call, they reportedly asked Massey to remove a pot of boiling water from her stove to prevent a fire. Deputy Sean Grayson then opened fire, claiming that Massey came at him with boiling water. Before she was shot, Massey reportedly dropped the pot on the floor, raised her hands over her head, and said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And today I have Queens here that we're going to discuss this. And we have Dr. Alicia Watkins, our therapist and social worker and professor. We have Athena Gardner, our CPA and wealth coach. We have Constance Carter, our wealth activist. And we have a very special guest, Vanessa Gopal, who has a master's in public policy and is a general contractor and entrepreneur. Ladies, before we get into this, I want us to actually watch this video. But for those who are watching us today, I want you to know that this is going to be something that is not pleasant to watch. That if you are triggered or upset by any type of shooting, please make sure that you turn the volume down or look away for a minute and then rejoin us, because this is something that is very hard to see. And in fact, I get a little choked up thinking about it. But we're going to go ahead and run this for you so that you can see what we are discussing today.
No. Check the whole area. What took you so long to answer the door?
Put on some clothes, sir. I'm sorry. I was trying to get.
I got you. All right. Is there anything else we can do for you?
Huh?
Is there anything else I can do for you?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. You doing all right mentally?
Yes.
Sure.
My medicine and stuff.
All right. Okay. We don't need a fire while we're here.
Right. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
Rebuke you in the name of
You better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the pot! Drop the pot! Drop the pot!
19 shots fired.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Drop the pot! Bring EMS now. We got a headshot wound to the female. Headshot wound to the female. 1078.
That is very difficult to watch. I know that a lot of our panel is feeling pretty uncomfortable. I'm feeling very uncomfortable about it because I think this happens way too much in our communities. But I would love to hear what your initial thoughts are on this video. And I'm going to start with Athena.
Okay, so I'm just even processing my own feelings. I feel tension in my heart. I don't feel very well. It's very upsetting. It's very sad and depressing. And it's almost like, goddamn, can Black women get a break? You know, this is not even something I'm doing anything illegal. She had police come over because she had some concerns. All of this over a boiling pot. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when I listened to the video and I said, I in the name of Jesus, said, you better not, or I'll shoot you in the face or something like that. That's what I heard. And to me, it's just unfortunate. And also, I don't know if any of the ladies felt this during that time, but during the pandemic, I was definitely feeling like now more than ever, I felt like a Black woman who was not protected. Like I just got very hyper aware of like my general sense of what my protection is in society, from personal experiences, but also just the climate. And with all that we just watched, it just goes to show you that we still have a long way to go when it comes to that.
I agree. I often ask my husband, like, we look at each other and say, isn't this 2024? Have we not made any progress at all? I feel like every time we take two steps, we have four steps that were dragged back. Dr. Alicia, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. There's an echo. Okay. Is there an echo on your end? You don't hear an echo? Okay. Yeah, my initial thoughts is that it's very sad to watch that video. It was also really frustrating because it didn't seem, from what I could see, that she caused any significant threat to the police officer. I mean, they were too far away for her to even harm them in any way. And I just think that I don't know if you played the beginning of the video, but he recognized that she had some sort of mental health problem, and he asked her, are you taking medications? And she said, yeah, I'm taking medication. So it seemed like from the beginning that he had enough training where he could recognize there wasn't like right with her. And I felt like police officers in general just need to be more trained in dealing with individuals who are struggling. And she made a statement about a religious statement about Jesus. I can't remember what she said specifically, but I think he may have misinterpreted her. Maybe he thought that statement was like an indication that she was going to do something erratic. And I think that was a mistake on his part. And it was just, there was not enough competence on the police officer's part in recognizing their own biases and responding to citizens. And I think that we need training. I'm really concerned about this particular police officer because I saw some indicators that maybe he ascribed to certain ideologies. So I'm always thinking about where he is in terms of how he views people of color. So there is some evidence of racism and discrimination from his past. And it's just super sad. It's very frustrating. Yet again, we have another incident of a person calling the police wanting protection because whether it was real or if it was something she made up in her mind, she felt threatened enough to pick up the phone and call 911. And they have a duty to serve and protect. At least that's what you would think. And I think impaired police officers are problematic. And of course, we'll probably get into some of this later on, but it looks at some of the systemic issues with the Justice Department and the police departments. And how they respond to things. It is super sad. And I hope, I'd like to keep hope alive, but I would really hope that this would spark yet again, more dialogue, more conversations, and actual change, tangible change in how police officers deal with the public.
I have to agree with that. It seems like they always promise that when something like this happens. However, we never see the actual change. Coming from Louisville, Kentucky, I know that the Breonna Taylor, going back to that, seeing how the Louisville Police Department handled that and still continues to mishandle that, if you ask me, in my opinion. We have a lot of people in the comments, and I am going to talk to our other queens about them and their reactions, but I want to make sure that I address some of the comments that we have here. Carolyn Battle said, "This is more than ridiculous. It's totally unacceptable for a police to do what they did. What did she do to make them feel afraid? I saw nothing threatened by her. A small woman at that. Heartbreaking." And then we heard someone, Angela said, I think she said something along the lines of, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." I don't see how that's even threatening at all, especially when she was doing what they asked her to do, which was to actually remove the boiling pot of water. To me, she actually had been frustrated enough because before this, they had kept asking for her ID. So there was just a lot of things in between that. And then Unlimited Best TV said, how do you truly gauge the mental truth of someone who can be or cannot be trusted to be an officer at any point of the interaction? I have to agree with these are some wonderful comments and some things that we can discuss. Constance, I would absolutely love to hear what you have to say.
Well, I just want to say that. Are we good? Okay. I want to say that I appreciate Dr. Alicia's perspective. You really give me hope for humanity because I don't have as much empathy as you do for these racist bastards. It's disgusting. And it's one of the reasons why I still believe in hell, because I think people like that should burn there. Seriously. It likens to, Mary Turner when they took her and strung her up and she was pregnant and they cut the baby out and stomped the baby. This is what they did to our people. These are the people who bred these people, and they still exist today. These people are the same people who would have stood by and watched Black men get lynched for no reason and brought their children to do the same. These people still exist today, and it angers me so much. I saw this yesterday and I wish I hadn't. Like I seen the news interview last week, and I was like, what are they talking about? And when they released it, I accidentally seen it, and then I posted it on my page, and then I said, there's no way that anybody can justify this. But then there were people who justified it. And like I said, those are the same people who would have brought their children to a public lynching. And these people still exist. And so it bothers me to my core, because we can talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. But because you have racists who have a thirst and a hunger to kill Black people, you're going to have this. And they do it with impunity. And the reason why he felt so comfortable in lying, because if you look at the rest of the video, he says afterwards, and the other police officer said, "Oh, I'm still on." He obviously didn't have his camera on. He knew what he went in there to do. He knew what he. So he said, "See, she threw this water. This water almost got to my feet or something like that." She had already poured it out. He was already trying to make up a lie. Again, he had a thirst and a hunger to shoot somebody in such a horrible, horrifying way. And so it's not even about police training. It's about them screening people, giving them mental screening to see if they are fit and suitable for the job. Have they had any, do they have any racist tendencies? Do they have any backgrounds to substantiate that they've done anything with racial motives? So that's what the police departments need to be doing. The training, yeah, they need more training, but if people already come with their innate biases, then they're going to act accordingly. And he's probably did this in some other capacity. I can't believe this is his first rodeo. I cannot believe it. But he did go in there intentionally intending on killing that woman. I won't believe anything else.
I have to agree with you on that. And I also really feel that a lot of these police departments are being weaponized and militarized. And that has a lot to do with what's going on here. And a lot of them are able to get in with their agendas, but I am really not the expert. So I actually do want to speak to our awesome expert today. Welcome, Vanessa Gopal. We are so happy to have you here today. I know you have a master's in public policy, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you for having me. Like you all said, I am extremely disturbed by this video. I echo Constance. I feel like this man went in with he wanted to kill someone, a Black woman or a Black man. If it hadn't been her, he would have been someone else, but it was going to happen. My biggest thing is that, when we look at police brutality in our community, we have to look at funding. We have to look at who elects the police chief. And a lot of that is done by our local government. So when you're electing a mayor or a city manager, most of the time, those individuals are electing your police chiefs. Your police chiefs is then, electing your board of commissioners, who are then going to decide how the money gets spent with your local parks, with enacting laws, how they enact laws, and how much they spend on police. So like in California, 87% of our budget is to police is local. So it comes from local funding, property taxes, retail taxes, different taxes that are of local money. So when we talk about police brutality and how we're going to change effectively, we have to look at the money. So if we're not showing up to vote at our local elections, then all the talk and all the movement, all the, getting pissed off over and over again as we see it over and over again, it's for nothing. We have to put individuals in our local elections that are for us, that will appoint a police chief that understands that there is an issue with brutality and killings of Black men and women, who will then appoint a board of commissioner who cares about how they spend the money within the police department. I agree to some degree there is training, but you can't, if I go get a job as a counselor or I work for a school, they do a better background check than they do with these police officers who are they're giving them a gun and telling them basically go do whatever you want. So even as we look at this election and we look at a person like Trump who is trying to push this initiative through the Project 2025, we have to consider, do we really, I mean, police officers already have a ton of immunity. But do we want to give them unlimited immunity when we constantly see things like this over and over and over again? Take away the funding, or at least control the funding. I don't know if taking away the funding will actually ever be realistic, but let's control the funding. Let's control how it gets spent. Let's do better research on how we hire police officers. Let's look through their social media account. Let's interview people. I mean, this should be a very serious thing, but we have to show up to our local elections and vote for people who have the same ideologies about police brutality in the
I'm sorry that we lost her. Hopefully we'll get her back. If you're just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. And if you don't want to miss an episode of ours, because we do talk about some very tough topics, as you know, today, and we also do talk about other things that affect our community, you want to make sure you text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. We are also on Spotify, so if you can't just catch us during the day, you could put us on your radio or whatever you're listening to, and that show my age by saying radio. Go ahead and stream us every day, and make sure that you go to Fly Nubian Money and make sure you give us a good thumbs up over there as well. And then also, guys, if you ever feel like you want to join the conversation with us, all you have to do is to email us and let us know that you're interested in being a participant on our show. And you can email us at info@realvirtual.net. I'm actually going to spell that REELVIRTUAL.net. We would love to have you. Today we are talking about something very heavy, something that is becoming more common and everyday occurrence, if you ask me, within our community. Sonya Massey was tragically killed by an Illinois police officer. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of having to say their names, because this list is getting longer and longer as we go on, and I don't see any changes. But I am actually going to throw this back over to you, Vanessa, because I know you were in the middle of saying something very, very important, and I want you to finish your thoughts, please.
Oh, thank you. I apologize. There were some technical difficulties, but basically, we just need to show up at our local elections. I understand that if you're not politically, or if you don't understand politics and how they work, uh, when we get excited about these presidential elections, it's great. But we need to have that same enthusiasm for our local elections, because when things like this happen, we need to look to our board of commissioners, we need to look to our chief of police, and we need to look to our mayor. And we need to replace them if they don't share the same ideologies that we have. And so that's always my biggest argument, is that, getting amped up for presidential elections is good. I'm glad people are going out to the polls, but let's keep that same energy when it comes to local elections.
I preach that every day. I truly mean that. We all have to be very aware of what we're doing when we're voting. We have had a couple of comments saying that voting is not going to change. I cannot get with that. I honestly feel that voting does make a change, but we have to understand that we need to start on the lower levels. You don't just look for the big presidentials. You don't just look for the senators and the congressmen. You look for the jailer. You look for the sheriff. You look for the librarian, and you research all of them, because if they have this ideology and no one really knows what they're doing and you're just checking boxes, this is what we're going to get. And that's what I have to say about that. I am sorry, y'all. I am like thoroughly emotional about this, and I am really trying to be real cool about this. But Dr. Alicia, I'm going to throw a question to you because obviously I'm emotional. Can you please talk about the emotional turmoil that Black people face in situations like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's what do you do when you are? Oh wait, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's really a really sticky situation that we see a lot in my field, because there is a need when you feel threatened to want to call to need to have to call the police to protect you. But at the same time, for a lot of Black people and Black women in particular, there's this sort of conflict. Like, I don't know. Okay, suppose a Black woman is in a domestic violence situation. They're less likely to call the police to come and save them, because they're like, I don't know if this police officer is going to work out their problems with Black people or my spouse incorrectly. And so it puts them in a situation where when they really need someone to come in and protect, like a honest police officer, and they're not able to do that because there's for a good reason, lack of trust in the judicial system. And I mean, I really think that, that's just a realistic thing that a lot of people have, especially Black women, when they're in these situations. It's the sad part about it is that, even though this was in the middle part of Illinois, I mean, the Black community is still connected to Black people all over. And so when we see situations like that, I'm affected as if it's me. I mean, or if it's somebody I know closely, because I'm so emotionally tied to my community all over the world. I don't want to see this happen at all. So when we see displays of this, to me, it causes a lot of discomfort, and it makes me become very cynical in our political system, and it's just like, what's the point of it all? We got these systems in place that are racist, that are discriminatory, and they take out their issues on us. We know the history of the police department, and why and how it was even formed is to monitor us. And it's something that just causes so much anguish to see things like that happen in communities in which, although I'm not physically there, I have an emotional tie to that. And how could it not affect us collectively? And that's, I think we do need to educate the public about the possibilities of municipalities and carrying out things. So I really love you, Vanessa, and what you're saying. I think the public needs to be more educated, and we just need to not just vote and then go on about our merry little way. We really need to vote and pay attention to what the people are doing, because they work for us. When you're in public position like that, their salary is for us. So we really need to be more invested in these systems. And I understand these systems hate us, and it's a hard situation for us to be in, because there's so many Black people. It's just like, you know what? I'm just going to not participate in this system. That I have no trust in the system at all, and they get discouraged by voting and keeping up with this. So I love that Vanessa is talking about some of these things, and maybe, just recognize that we're caught between a rock and a really hard place about understanding that we know these systems are racist. I mean, even the federal government has admitted, yes, these systems are racist, and they track it. They track how the racism within the criminal justice system is tracked by our federal government. They know this to be true. And so what do we do about it? It just seems to be such a big issue. And it's just disheartening to see this lady who clearly was struggling in a lot of different ways, and to see this interaction. And I'm happy that this police officer is in jail, is in prison. It looks like he is going to he is going to have his day in court, but this doesn't reflect all officers. You know, there are some really good, I know there are police officers in my family, there are police officers that I know really well, and they are good people. And it's very frustrating to see this sort of incident happening. So that's what I would say.
We have some graphics up right now that I do want to definitely talk about, and this one in particular. Race soldiers racially executed an innocent Black woman named Sonya Massey by falsely claiming she was threatening them with boiling water. This was from, I believe this is from X. Someone on X. Notice the Viking calendar tattoo on the race soldier's arm. This is common among white supremacists. But every time we see something like this, they try to hide it, and it's always the public, to me, if you ask me, that ends up finding these things and bringing it to the attention of the public. I never really see these things being noted in the news reports unless someone else in the community of social media has always brought it out first. I'd like to know from those who are watching us, do you feel that it is way too easy for racists to enter police enforcement and law enforcement without being thoroughly checked in the background? To me, if he had this tattoo before he went into the police enforcement, that would have been a woo, woo, woo. He doesn't need to be on the force. So I would actually love to hear your thoughts about that. We have some wonderful people in here giving us great comments. And I'm stumbling just because thinking about this, because guys, when I see something like this, I see my sister, I see my aunt, I see someone's grandmother. Sometimes it doesn't matter what age you are, right? I see daughters, and I worry about the future of the Black woman, because it always seems to me that we are the last to be thought about. We're the strongest. We're supposed to be the strongest one, but yet we are such targets. And I actually want to hear your thoughts on that, Constance. Does that resonate with you at all?
It is so frightening. It is extremely frightening being Black in America. Being Black in America is one of the scariest things you can be. And when I looked at her, I didn't look at my mom or my grandma or my cousin. I looked at me. That could have happened to me. I could have called the police thinking somebody broke into my house or was breaking into my car, and a blood-hungry police officer who was looking to kill somebody came in and just shot me for no reason. She posed absolutely no threat. And it is scary. Police are, there is open season on Black people. Last year I was on, my son called me. I'm in California. My son is here. He's actually in Virginia. He's coming from, I don't know, his girlfriend's house or something. And he's coming back to Maryland, and he's driving in his all black on black Lexus, young kid, college student, whatever. And he called me. He said, "Mom, the police pulled me over." And I said, "Okay, well, you know what? Put me on FaceTime, and let's see." He was like, "I don't even know what I did," but he pulled me over. So we're chopping it up for a few minutes. And all of a sudden, I hear my son begging for his life. I'm sorry. What did I do?" And he's crying. He's begging. He's pleading. He's crying. And I'm sitting there in shock. Can't do anything. I'm 3,000 miles away. And he's like, I'm sorry. What? Gun to his head. Because he was a Black man driving a black Lexus, a boy, 18 years old. And I've already had these conversations with my boys. I have 3 boys. And I've already had these conversations with my boys. And here I am on the front row watching this live in real time, my son on FaceTime with a gun to his head for doing nothing. And then I'm hearing the police trying to justify, after he figures out, my son's a college student, he's a good kid. Well, you shouldn't have done, he was looking for a reason, and he finally let him go with nothing because he had no reason to pull him over in the first place. But my son told me that the only thing that he could think of is, please don't let me get shot in the head in front of my mom. This is the kind of shit that we got to deal with as Black people. Whether you are a woman or a man, if you have children, if you have brothers, sisters, daughters, nieces, nephews, and aunties, this is the kind of bullshit that we have to deal with. And quite frankly, I'm sick of it.
I'm right there with you. I never will forget. I was driving our Beamer in LA, and I was showing property in Compton, and I got pulled over for no reason. And I just knew that my husband had always told me, you put me on the phone or you call 911 and you leave them on the side of the. And I was like, well, I don't trust 911. They work with the police. So I literally called my husband and just let him hear as well. And I couldn't believe how shaken I was, because there was really no reason. He just wanted to see who was driving the BMW with the tinted windows, and asked me what I was doing, even when I told him that I was an agent. I'm a realtor. I'm showing property in Compton. I never was afraid of the Compton people. I was afraid of the police. So I hear where you're coming from, Constance. When I got finished with that, I was shooketh all the way to the core, because he was asking questions that were not relevant, and I literally was afraid for my life. So I'm actually going to ask you, Vanessa, I want to talk about the history of the police force, and what can you share with us, how you can see a connection to, and I'm going to throw it out there and somebody could be mad and I don't care, slave master to cop. I would love to hear your connection on that, please.
Well, the question from slave master to cop is that it's been the same routine. When they hire these people, when they say protect from who? They're not hiring them to protect white people from white people. They're hiring them to protect black people, white people from black people. So it's just the same ideologies. It's the same power, the power chain, and it just keeps getting handed down and handed down and handed down. And so not much has changed. Even when you look at I was reading an article and it was taking, the badge, the star badge, and that's what slave masters used to hold, and the slave catchers, they would hold that badge. So I mean, not much has changed. I think now we're seeing it because we have video camera, we have internet. We're just seeing it more. But these things have been happening, for decades, over and over again. My father actually, he grew up in Selma, Alabama, and my aunt, and so they participated in Bloody Sunday. But my father told me stories about, they would walk to school, and there would be black men lynched on trees, just hanging there as he was walking to school, and nobody would take them down because for fear if you took them down, they would come hunt you down or your family down. They would pull you out and they would kill you. So this is, there hasn't been, we're just seeing it more. And I think we're more aware of it. And so, like I said, that's why I'm a big proponent of showing up and making sure that the voting power that our ancestors fought for, that we use it, and we put people in office that can at least share or change some of the history of what policing has been. But we're seeing it more. I think that most police officers, I don't believe that we have a plethora of good police officers, maybe a handful, but I think that most of them share the same ideology because it's a taught ideology that you're protecting white people from black people. And that's, if you're going into it with those thoughts, then when you encounter a black man or a black woman, you're going to have a different approach than when you approach a white man or a white woman. And so that's my thought on it.
I cannot dispute any of that thought. Athena, I would love to hear if you have had any type of experience or negative experience with law enforcement.
Okay, so most of my experiences with police have been pleasant. I've been able to get out of a lot of tickets, actually, except for one. And this experience happened after, it was about like the Black Lives Matter movement during pandemic. After that, I was on the highway driving. I was in the HOV lane with no like other occupants. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sure this guy's gonna pull me over. He ended up pulling me over. But this time was different. For some reason, I was just tense. And I think, especially during the Black Lives Matter movement, I guess I didn't really, even though I live in Florida, I guess I really didn't absorb a lot of that, and then post that movement, I noticed differently because I never used to have fear about police pulling me over. My body tensed up, and the thoughts in my mind were, oh my God, I can potentially die from this. I never used to think that. The guy came over, he was so aggressive, like the tone, like I've never had a experience with it. And this is for a traffic stop, by the way. I never had an experience like that. And the whole time I just felt like, okay, let me just make sure I have my registration, and I'm fumbling to give him things. I ended up getting a ticket. Afterwards, I drove off and I just started bawling my eyes out. And I ended up calling my brother and my ex at the time, and I went home, and I think my brother came over to comfort me, but I was just like, this was just so strange because it's not like, I don't know. Dr. Alicia, you probably have to explain that. I don't know if that was a PTSD situation or something like that, because up until that time, I never had a negative experience. Now, since Black Lives Matter and all these other cases have happened, it's definitely, I'm even struggling to communicate. It's definitely when I see things like that, there's a response that is happening that I don't fully comprehend. Like, I'm trying not to cry right now. That video we saw, that was my first time seeing that video when we had to do this show. I've never seen that video. So after I watched it, like, I'm not doing well. But what I want to say for Black women in general, and any Black person really, that now is the time to definitely take care of our mental health, especially with this election. We're still facing these issues. I'll be curious to see how, if at all, this comes up, or if Kamala addresses this, because I know that's one of the criticism we have as a community of her. And then even when President Obama was running, that they don't really address Black issues. But I wanted to also take this conversation to give our audience some statistics on police shootings as it pertains to Black women. Black women make up about 10% of the female population in the US, but account for 1/5 of all women killed by police. So that's 20%, right? And almost 1/3 of unarmed women killed by police. Several high-profile cases highlight the issue, including Breonna Taylor, Corinne Gaines, Atiana Jefferson. Black women are 1.4 times more likely to be killed by the police than white women, okay? And have been killed in various situations during wellness checks, traffic stops, and mistaken identities incidents. For example, Breonna Taylor was killed during a no-knock raid, right? Dr. Alicia's, I guess you can talk to this. Violence and fatalities have broader health implications, contributing to psychological stress, sleep disturbances, and increased risk of chronic conditions like hypertension, diabetes among Black women. Also, I think there's something that's happening to us as a community on a broader perspective, because I think being inundated, right? Being inundated and watching these things over and over again is doing something to us. Because I can only imagine if all of us are affected on this panel just watching it, that as a community, as a group, being inundated in social media and everything with all of this going on adds to the mental distress and dysfunction that we experience in the community.
I think it says a lot that we all have an experience that we're sharing, and we are just, what, 5 ladies here on the panel? If you're just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. Today, we are talking about a very difficult conversation with Sonya Massey, who was tragically killed by the hands of an Illinois police officer. We are actually here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we tackle some really relevant things that are going on in our world. And if you don't want to miss this, because we really do have wonderful wonderful conversations, and you're welcome to join our conversations. You want to make sure that you text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948, and you'll get notifications on when we go live. Now, if you miss us on live, you always can watch the replay. Also have a conversation with us there, because we do come back and check that out. But you also can listen to us on Spotify. So you can go to Spotify and look up Fly Nubian Money and carry us with you wherever you go. Now, we also help you with your money. Right? We're talking about mindset today, but we're going to also talk about money. If you're interested in how to get your money right, you can go to our website, which is flynubianmoney.com. And you'll get free resources and courses to help you get your money right. Now, I do want to dive back in, but we do have a video that I would like to share before we go back into the conversation. And then once we get back from the video, I'm also going to address some of the comments that we have as well. So let's go ahead and check out this video. Okay, we might be having a little bit of technical difficulty on that. So while we're setting that up, there we go.
This is again, we're going to give our police their power back, and we're going to give them immunity from prosecution. So they're not prosecuted for doing their job. We'll take over the horribly run capital of our country, Washington, D.C., and clean up, renovate, and rebuild our capital city so that it's no longer a nightmare of murder and crime, but rather it will become the most beautiful capital anywhere in the world. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content.
I would love to hear our viewers' thoughts on that, but I'm actually going to throw it to you, Vanessa. What do you think? Because you talk about policies. What type of policy are we going to expect with that type of attitude?
Well, the immunity, it was the immunity comment for me. We already give police a ton of immunity. I mean, I don't know how much we can give them more. So, I mean, it's really unimaginable that we can give police more immunity. We've seen consistently them shooting, killing unarmed Black women and men. I mean, you can go, we can go down the list. I mean, children. So that's very alarming. And so what that resonates with me when I hear Donald Trump give that speech is he's basically saying, I want to take it back to the days of, slave catcher. It just reminds me of, white men hunting Black people. That's what that sounds like to me. And there are no laws. We're going to take it back to a time where if you protest, even that this should just be accepted. So that's what I hear, in those speeches. And the federal government makes a lot of laws and regulations. They could push for to give police officers immunity, but once again, your local division, for the people that are saying voting does not matter, 87% of local funding funds your local police departments on average. This was the number in 2021. 87%. That means 13% is coming from the federal government and state, right? It's a small amount. So if you start putting your foot down on that 87% and how it gets spent, and who in doing better background checks and having better qualification standards for police officers, then we might effectively see change. But that's what I hear from Donald Trump. To go back to your question, I just had to once again throw that in there for the people that are saying voting does not matter. It absolutely does. I would prefer you to vote in your local election before you do your presidential election. Like right now, we should all be calling the mayor to fire the chief of police in that city. Which it'll trickle down. So we just have to be vigilant. And when we hear people talking like this, interpreting is he's saying exactly what he's saying. He's saying that I want to give police officers unlimited power to shoot and kill Black and brown people. He's
Let
not
me add,
saying.
I need to add to that, y'all. If Donald Trump gets elected, y'all better go out and get some guns and y'all better start shooting back, because that's the only recourse that we have in this type of environment. Black people better start arming themselves and be prepared for some shit to go down, because this is what he's rallying up his base to do, is kill black people with impunity. So black people better get smart.
I agree.
I think that's open season. What he's doing is calling open season, but Donald Trump has always been good at that. Just look at what he's done in New York. This man says everything that he wants to do and big enough to do, and he's actually said he'll never be accountable for it. And if you ask me how you're going to be a convicted felon and still be running for president, you got me on that one. So I still have issues with that. I want to address a few comments that we have. Some of them are concerning to me, and I'm with you, Vanessa. When you sit home and you don't vote, you're still voting, love. You're still voting. Your choice not to go and check a box is still saying so much by sitting home on that couch and doing nothing at all. All of this affects you. And then Joseph Jackson says, stop worrying about Project 2025. We've dealt with Trump before. We'll deal with whatever this election brings. Don't vote to keep someone out. Vote to put the proper person in. Sir, I disagree. That is my only comment on that one. And the fact that I know some people are saying Project 2025 is not being implemented yet, but yes, it is. I need you to look at Texas. I need you to look at Florida. I need you to see that they have already started this mess, and the Supreme Court is backing it all up. If they're going to give Trump immunity, they're going to give the cops immunity. But, you know, we can debate that all day long. We've had a wonderful conversation about 2025, Project 2025. If you have not watched that, I highly recommend that you go back and you watch that, because it is very important for you to understand that this thing is real. This is not some imaginary fairy tale book, and your life will be affected. And I get angry at that, because I really don't like to hear people say that they're going to sit home and not vote. That's your prerogative, but don't get it twisted. Your non-vote still speaks volumes. Volumes. And that means our communities are still at risk. So I'm going to throw a question to you, Dr. Alicia, because Athena brought up something I thought was very interesting. She and I both said that by the time we got finished with the police, we were shaken. We were shaken so bad that I just busted into tears. And she said she did too. We haven't talked about this before. So what kind of impact is this having on us? Is it PTSD? What is it? What is it? Is it anxiety? How do we address this and help us, if it happens to us, to calm that?
Yeah, I mean, we're afraid, and rightfully so. It makes sense that you would be threatened by I'm certain it was some white man that pulled you over, right? It wasn't like we're looking at a whole diverse group of police officers. And yeah, that transference and counter transference back and forth is a real thing. And yeah, you can feel like, when someone doesn't like you. You can tell, you can feel when you have a conversation with someone, an interaction with somebody who has a gun. You can tell when that person is looking at you in a certain way. And yeah, I mean, that's a very realistic feeling to have, to be distraught. I mean, and even Constance, I have a Black son too, who is 6'8". He's a gentle person, but he's 6'8" and probably getting taller. And I don't know. I mean, it is a very, every time he tells me I'm going to Chicago, we hanging out at the beach, I can't tell him no, because he's a grown man, but it's something that that is stressful. And that's called white supremacy. That's called white supremacy, because other people don't have this. White people don't feel that way when their sons go to Chicago. So that's white privilege. That's the privilege that white people have. When a person who looks like them pulls them over, they're not going to have all of this narrative running in their head. So it is the reality of it. It's understanding the helplessness of it all. It's my word against your word. And, I love that even with Rodney King was so important, because Black people have been screaming about all these things happening with police officers. And the Rodney King was the very first demonstration of someone actually filming it live. And even at that, justice wasn't done. So, I mean, this lack of trust with the police department goes back to what Vanessa was talking about from slavery. The police departments were formed for the sole purpose of keeping tabs on what Black people were doing. That's how they were formed. And it's going to take a lot to be able to break down these sort of issues. And there's not a politician alive that can get elected with this idea of being soft on crime. You know, if you start taking money away from the police departments and start allocating it to anything, mental health treatment, any of these things that can stop crime before it happens, you're not going to get reelected. There's politics behind it. So we can't really look for politicians to really pay attention to Black people in general, because we're 13% of the population. And it is something that we just have to recognize, identify, have forums like this where we can talk about it. You know, maybe we need to just live off the grid and say, peace, see you later, and just exit the system, be a non-participatory action. And I understand that. And the issue is that there's no answer to it. You know, I can sit here all day and talk to you about meditating. I can talk to you about having a good self-care plan. I can talk to you about turning the TV off. But at the end of the day, we're still Black and we still have these issues. And we're going to continue to have stories like this as long as these systems are in place to monitor us, to make us feel like we're some criminals. You don't even know who we are and what we are. So it's the helplessness of it all. And there is no answer to that. So the struggle is there, it's real. We just have to recognize it. And of course, your coping mechanism. I could get into my whole spiritual stuff, but maybe that's not necessarily appropriate for this sort of platform. But I have my own practice that I have in place where I try to program myself and how I want my world to look. My little world looks the way I devised it to look. And sometimes it just smacks in the face of reality, but we can create our reality. So I think that there's places like Fly Nubian Queen and Fly Nubian Money. There's avenues here where we can join together. We're all like-minded individuals. And I don't know, I just feel comfort in listening to all of you all talk and things like this, shows like this that can raise awareness. And, we're long overdue for reparations and for making things right. Look at that picture of Sonya was her name, Sonya, and that police officer. I mean, she's not even 100 pounds. That police officer is almost 3 times her size. It just boggles my mind that little lady, miniature little lady, could ever be a threat. And even if she was a threat, to behave like that by just drawing your weapons and shooting like that should never, ever be ever justified. There's other ways where you can de-escalate something. Even it doesn't even seem like it escalated into anything, but there's other ways for you to do that where it doesn't have to end with, I'm just going to draw my gun and shoot this lady, knowing that your camera is on. I mean, he knew that his camera was on and he was still doing something so blatant. Can you imagine what happens when there are no cameras? It's very disheartening.
And honestly, I don't believe the man thought, he thought nobody was recording, because it's very easy for them to say, oh, my camera wasn't on. But I want you to look at this slide now. Police excessive force. Police use of force. According to the Washington Post database, there have been over 1,000 fatal police shootings in the U.S. each year since 2015. Racial disparities. Black Americans are killed by police at more than twice the rate of white Americans, according to Mapping Police Violence. And community trust, a Gallup poll from 2020 found that only 18% of Black Americans have had a great deal of confidence in police. I personally can tell you that I do not have any. I try to stay away from police as much as possible. But let's look at this. In a historical context, a study from the Pew Research Center found that 84% of Black adults said that they are treated less fairly than white people in dealings with the police. This is extremely disheartening for our community. I don't know where we begin other than, like we said, we start with the voting, but then you have some people who say, we're trying to do scare tactics. We had a couple of comments saying that, they don't like politically being scared to vote. No one's threatening you, sir, but it's really the truth in the fact that your voice really does matter if you don't vote. And if you don't vote, it's still a voice matter. It's still going to count. So this one here I love, not having a pot to piss in. I still refuse to be treated like a second-class citizen. I agree with that. I mean, we pay you to protect us, but I'm at the point now where you have to really evaluate if you even want to call the popo. Are you going to be in danger? Are they really going to come? Because as someone also stated in the comments, that the police seemed agitated that they had to be there in the first place when she was calling for protection. So there is so much to unpack with this. We really wanted to get into this some more, but we could talk all day on this. We really can. But we are really appreciative of you actually being here with us to discuss this matter. So before we go, I actually want to hear some final thoughts and then tell us where we can find you. I'm going to begin with you, Athena. Can you please tell us some of your thoughts on this? Where do you think we go from here, and how can we reach you?
Final thoughts are this, especially to my Black women. Clearly, we're seeing that there's a lot of issues facing us right now. We're not being protected by the police. The men are having their little snow bunny season, passport bro season. Are questioning our worth left, right, and center every day. It just seems so that we can't find a break. And so what I would suggest is that you enjoy some soft life and relax and don't feel like you have to mule for anyone or anybody, because clearly we see that we are not priorities in the ways that we need to be. My advice would be to galvanize yourself, make sure that your money is all the way together financially, especially with things coming down the pipeline, Project 2025, AI, etc. You can find information on how to confidently manage your finances and create your best wealthy goddess life on my website at wewealthwomen.com. Outside of that, I am learning how to garden, and I will be practicing with my Smith & Wesson, and I advise Black women to do so as well.
I agree. I've got my Erica Badu ready. Vanessa, I would love to hear your thoughts, and we are so happy to have you here today for your perspective. And where can we find you?
No, thank you, ladies, for having me. Thank you to everybody in the comments who joined on today. We appreciate you interacting. My final comments is we have to show up and vote. Local elections, it matters. I don't care. It matters. Sometimes we're appointing judges, city commissioners. If someone, was to tell you, I'm going to take all your money, and you have no ability to tell me how to spend it, you would go crazy. So that's what you're doing when you don't show up and vote at your local elections. If you are paying taxes, you need to show up and vote. If you're not paying taxes, still show up and vote. You can find me on social media at VGopaul. That's VGOPAUL. My company is Winter Remodeling Incorporated. And vote, vote, vote.
And I'll add vote, 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 and ditto, ditto, ditto. Constance, I would love to hear your final thoughts, because I know you always bring the fire. And where can we find you?
Y'all, this is so sad, and I thought about it all day yesterday. I dreamed about it last night. I saw it again when I woke up this morning. I showed my kids, which they are so upset with me because they're like, "Mom, you're always showing us somebody dying," but this is the reality. When my children were smaller, I have 3 boys and 1 daughter. I knew what I had to prepare them for in America. I knew no matter how far their pants were pulled up to their chest, no matter how well that they were able to articulate themselves, no matter how intelligent they were or how well behaved they are, or how well traveled, or how many museums they've gone to, or how much access and proximity they have to people with things, they were going to be perceived as a threat. And unfortunately, it's been my reality, you know, and out of two out of my three boys have had guns pulled on them, have had different incidences that they have to deal with as young Black men. We have to deal with them as Black women as well. And it's extremely disheartening to relatively conscious is to be in a rage at all times. And that's how it is. It's very, very, very scary just to be Black in America. And so this year, 28 Black women have been murdered from January to today. 28 Black women have been brutally murdered. And we need to protect Black women. And so as we support Black men, we need each other. The only way that we're going to make it in America is that we have each other. We support each other. We need each other. We can't depend on nobody else to do it. Nobody's going to save us but us. And that's what we really need to see, Black people, that nobody's going to save us but us. If Trump gets elected and he says that these police officers,
Dang it, little gremlins are really fighting us today, but that's okay. We still got a voice and we still here. So hopefully we'll get Constance back. Dr. Alicia, I'm going to go ahead and throw it to you for your final thoughts as well as where we can reach you, please.
Yes, final thoughts. We know that the criminal justice system is racist. It is not my opinion. This is really a fact. The criminal justice system is racist. Surveillance, how you sentence people, arrest, there's racism. When it comes to booking, there's racism. When they come out of the prison system, the criminal justice system, there's racism there because you're discriminated against because of your past. And we know that criminal activity is not just designated to one group of people. There's not one group that's more likely to be criminals above another. So it has nothing to do with race necessarily. So the thing is that knowing this, what do we do about it? I think that all of us need to take a deep breath. And when I say get into some spiritual practices, I really mean that. You need to call on your ancestors, have them come and protect you. I visualize all of my children, my whole house, everybody I love and respect. I visualize a white light around everybody of protection. We got to get on a spiritual level to combat what's going on here and not walk around like we're some victims. And there can be things that's happened that could victimize individuals, but we really need to start protecting ourselves spiritually. I have my own spiritual practice. I encourage everybody to do that as well. Religion, whatever it is that you adhere to, I really think that this is the time to call upon that. Call upon our ancestors, call upon your higher self, whatever you connect with. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me at Coaching with Dr. Alicia. I work with individuals and couples. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can get me on the gram with Coaching with Dr. Alicia.
Thank you, Dr. Alicia. You always bring such beautiful thoughts and things for us to really think about. And I had to smile when you said you put a white light around your loved ones, because I do too. And some people call that woo-woo. I call that love. And so I appreciate that you brought that into this conversation as well. Constance, we didn't get to hear where we can find you, love. I'm sorry. The little gremlins came and said...
They said they joined. Shut the hell up, huh? All right. So here's what I love. I love Black people. And one of the things that I do is I am an advocate. I'm a wealth activist, and I am here to help Black people, specifically Black women. So if you are a Black woman or you know a Black woman, I have a cohort to help Black women achieve millionaire status. Shoot me up, hit me up. Go follow me anywhere at I am Constance Carter, Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube.
Thank you, Constance. And I want to take this time to thank everybody who's been watching us today, because we really had some really good comments. And I know that we didn't get to all of them, but a lot of us like to go back to the comments and address them later. So please keep them coming, because we love to hear what you've got to say. Nat Cole King, I love that name. God bless you, ladies. I heard about this. But to see it, yes. And I think that is something that you can't unsee. And matter of fact, you put it in your heart, and you have to just pray over it. It's not something that you not think about anymore. I still think about Breonna Taylor. That's my hometown, y'all. My hometown, Louisville, Kentucky, my hometown. And I've got people on the force. So it's not something you put away. So my final thoughts is this: no one can make changes but us. It is us that need to decide what we're going to do as a community to make the changes. And part of that is voting. No one is telling you you must do something, but you have to understand that your actions have consequences. And I've learned that more than anything this year, because I'm dealing with some things as well with the law in Mississippi. So I want you to know that your voice still matters, and it's okay to hurt, and it's okay to pray, and it's okay to get mad, and it's okay to carry this and decide what you're going to do for your family, because we all matter. We do. Our community matters. Until we stand up in unity, nothing will change. So if we want it that bad, we have to go and get it. I am Laura Lalaki. I'm an international real estate agent. Notice I said international. So therefore, if you are ready to leave, I think you need to reach out to me, because I have options for you. Get out of that box. You ain't got to stay there if you don't want to. All right. And you can reach me at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. If you've joined us today at all, you're watching Fly Nubian Money, and we're here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We discuss some pretty tough stuff, and sometimes we do discuss some fun things in pop culture too, but we address everything that deals with our community. So if you don't want to miss us, all you have to do is text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. And you also can go to Spotify and carry us with you wherever you go. Make sure you look for Fly Nubian Money there as well and subscribe. If you're interested in getting in this conversation, coming on in as a guest, all you have to do is just email us, and you can email us at info@realvirtual.net, and that is REEL virtual.net. And then finally, if you want to get your money right and your money tight, we have resources for you. So please head on over to Fly Nubian Money, where you can get some free courses and some resources to help you get your financial house in order. We thank you again, because you could be somewhere else watching something else, but we appreciate your time and also the love that you have for our community by supporting us. So that's what we have for you today. We had some hard conversation today. Please make sure that you go and love on yourself, because the love starts within you. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Bye, everybody. Thank you, panel. Love you.